All right, guys, we're live. Welcome to Fish North Georgia's Tuesday Nighters. We are so appreciative of your time. If you're watching live tonight, hope you join us in the comment section. We got a great show for you guys tonight. Doing something a little different than our normal bass stuff. We're going to be talking cold water river fishing and all the opportunities we have here in Georgia in the Southeast. A little bit of trout, a little bit of bass. All of that stuff. We're going to talk about tactics, ways to do it, just how to enjoy your time out on the water. So I got two great guests tonight. I got to my left, Mr. Phil Hutcheson with the beard.
How's it going,
there.
Guys?
Yeah, he's
long time no see.
He's been on before like that.
Yeah.
To my right, I got a first timer, Mr. Micah Walker.
Hey, everyone.
So like that. So a lot of great stuff we're going to be doing. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click that like and subscribe button and that notification bell so you will know anytime we are doing one of our shows or putting out a video, and follow us at Fish North Georgia on all the social media platforms. So we're going to really jump right into it tonight. We've kind of delved into the fly fishing world and the trout world. And so we always talk fly fishing. I told Phil we could do another one, but I want to know about all the other ways to catch bass and trout and stuff on these waters. So we're going to cover a little bit of that, but just for somebody that has never met you or doesn't know you, give a little bit of information on who Phil Hutcheson is.
Well, I'm local to Atlanta. Been fishing the river, the Hooch. That's where I've been mainly fishing up until this year. And now that's kind of evolved because, moved a little ways away. So I'm up on some better water nowadays. But grew up fishing the Hooch for trout. Took a little break for about 12 years and got back into it about 7 years ago. Started chasing big brown trout, chase some big striper as well, shoal bass every once in a while.
Right.
And now we've been learning about some freaking pretty cool smallmouth stuff as well this year.
That's right. We're going to talk about that.
We can talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But the other things is through fishing, I've been able to get into helping other people learn how to fish. Right. And through that, getting into guiding. And that's been a heavy focus the past several years for me with this guy that we got over here to the right, Mr. Micah Walker.
That's right. So, is it Bodnar?
Pete Bodnar, yeah.
Bodnar. I always mess up everything. Phil for president. So there you go. You got one vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
He's
one
a good
vote.
dude, man.
There you go. So what's happened, Tony? Sal, appreciate you guys joining us again. If you're joining,
what's going on, Sal?
Throw them questions out there.
And Tony.
Mr. Micah, tell us a little bit about yourself. This is first time. I just met you about 35, 40 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
we're getting to learn each other.
Yeah.
And, tell us a little bit about who Micah Walker is.
I do mainly, trout stuff here in Georgia. We'll do some bass stuff, obviously, because they're in the rivers. But I started kind of young, getting into it with my dad, John McCloskey. He definitely showed me the ropes and all that.
That's right.
Yeah, so I started doing that. Started fishing up on the Soquee and Chattahoochee mainly. Where I'm at now, I'm kind of in between the Hooch and Toccoa, so I spend my time mainly on the Toccoa when I'm not up in Alaska guiding.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit too, Alaska. Yeah. That's a subject that's only been brought up one time on any of our shows. So that,
with Puppy.
It's a good topic.
That's right.
But yeah, so after I started getting into it, I went up to Alaska. I was pretty young before I got my captain's license. Just kind of did campaign stuff there, and 8 years later, I'm still there, and
that's right,
and doing it.
Now, how old are you?
25.
25. So it's funny. It says 8 years later, like he started when he was like, they don't have to necessarily. He can talk to me.
Okay.
He can talk to me.
I didn't know.
Listen, the Phil's over here giving directions.
Yeah,
what's wrong with this guy? So Peter P, what's up, boys? I appreciate you watching tonight. So let's, I guess
Pete
you know that guy.
That fish.
He does.
That's who was fishing with us on Sunday. Yep.
Was he fishing with you guys on
Sunday?
Sunday?
He fished with us on Sunday. We got to float to Toccoa, and it was a very, very beautiful day. A little warm, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I had a blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was a good day.
So let me ask you this though. We're getting into the heat of the summer. Are a lot of the rivers around here, especially the smaller creeks, I know it gets a little too hot for trout and all that, but you say that the Toccoa and the Hooch, is that something you can fish year round?
Well, so that's kind of where you got to think about the basics of how the streams are broken down. So you've got with the Chattahoochee and the Toccoa, they both have dams at certain points on the river. Okay. So Once you have that dam, that's going to create a lake. Above that lake, the river is considered a freestone. So
what?
a freestone.
Okay.
So all the streams that you fished out in Montana, for example, those are considered freestones, the bigger ones.
Okay.
They do have spring creeks as well. That that's literally just spring creek water that's welling up.
Right.
But for the most part, anything like that's going to be a freestone. Now, when it comes out of that dam, it's considered a tailwater.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
the freestones in Georgia, because of the incredible high silt content that we have, it clogs up a lot of the streams, and so they'll get warmed up during the summer.
Gotcha.
Tailwaters, they don't operate the same way. They'll stay a lot cooler all throughout the whole year, all throughout the hottest
Water in the summer, regardless of temperature outside.
Yep.
Because that water is still going to be plenty cold enough
for
those fish to do fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we were talking about trout, what water temperature would it be where you would say, no, that's a danger zone?
Really, we don't like to fish for where we guide at. We won't fish for fish above like 65, 68. So
yeah, I like to even go just, especially here because it gets so hot in the summer. I mean, which we've had a pretty mild spring so far. It's been nice.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I like to try to keep it like maybe 65 max for trying to target trout and stuff. And even in the summer, like right now, like I winter, it doesn't really matter, but I like to try to keep trout in the water if I can, not do a bunch of grip and grins if we can, just because
grip and grins. Yeah.
Just because, I mean, when you take them out of that cold water and it's dry and hot, I mean,
it's going to shock them.
It's bad for them. So
plus, I mean, if you drop them at all, anything like that,
dropping them anytime.
Poor handling is going to do so much damage to those fish. I mean, they're tough to a point, but just like any fish, I mean, they're not bass.
Okay, so that's what I was getting ready to ask you. Compare it to a bass.
So with a bass, you've got more leeway as far as the oxygen and the way the oxygen is held within their bodies,
right,
and utilized by their bodies, and how their bodies handle lactic acid. It's totally different for trout than it is for bass. You can keep the bass out of the water a little longer. It's not necessarily good for them, but they have that survivability aspect to them. The trout don't really hold those same aspects to where if you keep them out of the water for a long time,
right,
they're not as likely to recover. Because what happens with trout is if you work out a ton or if you go run a ton and you get really sore and you have all that lactic acid building up and you need it to, you're sore for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Well, the trout, they'll have so much that'll build up. And if the water's not cool enough, even sometimes if it is cold enough,
right,
they will still go into a state of shock where they can't get rid of the lactic acid and they just die.
Okay.
So
trout definitely like the cool water.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
So Robert Robleski driving home
hey,
from
Robert,
Pickwick,
how you doing?
So appreciate you listening. You better not be watching. I hope you're listening if you're driving.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you hit me. I've got some guys that have requested me make some more videos with you after your Lake Hartwell video. So I got some stuff on the schedule for you. So let's hook up sometime really soon.
There you go.
Now compare, for me, this is me one though.
Yeah.
The Hooch and the Toccoa. Two totally different waters.
Yes.
And I would imagine two totally different, whatever you smart guys in the trout world say, as far as environments and all that.
Yes.
So give me some differences between the two.
So obviously the Hooch being close to Atlanta, the tailwater section at least, there's a lot more silt buildup, especially with all the homes and stuff being built down in there. So there's bad erosion. So there's less bug life basically.
Right.
So there's still bug life obviously for the trout to eat, but for the most part, way less bug habitat for them. And it gets pressured a lot more than the Toccoa does.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because it's close to more people basically.
Right.
So Toccoa, how Toccoa set up, there's obviously silt, but the silt and basically homes being built up there still happens. But it's not as bad as down in Atlanta.
Now,
not as bad.
The Toccoa before Lake Blue Ridge, is it called the Toccoa before Blue Ridge?
Yeah,
It's still the
Toccoa.
It only turns into the Ocoee once it crosses the state line.
Is that okay? That's it. Okay, so I have fished above Lake Blue Ridge, and what did we say? It was sandy
bottoms.
Sandy bottoms.
Yep.
Delayed harvest section.
Yes.
Enjoyed that. Cold as all get go though in the wintertime because the sunlight's only there for like 3 hours a day,
Yes.
but enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Toccoa past Blue Ridge Dam. How
Toccoa.
does it change?
I mean, it's
Just compare the two, because it seemed like above it, that natural kind of free flowing river, freestone, kind of what you said. I learned that term tonight.
Yep.
Is it similar past Blue Ridge?
It's a little different. I mean, so with the tailwater section in general, because there's the dam there, depending on the lake levels, they're going to be able to release water.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the time if they have enough water in the lake. But if there's not, a lot of rain or something up on the north end, up on the upper Toccoa, then the water's going to be a lot lower. It's more subject to just natural environments, just because there's not a man-made dam pushing water through there.
Okay.
So both fish well around this time of the year. After May 1st, they stop stocking it.
Okay.
Just with it being a DH, so they don't stock anymore. After May 1st, you can go up there with spinners and stuff too. But before that, it's single hook,
right?
Fly
That's
only,
when I was up there. Was delayed harvest,
stuff like that. So, fish is good that time of year too, because they're still stocking it.
Yeah.
Which right now they're stocking the tailwater, pretty much exclusively now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because now,
heavily too.
And heavily, but we get a lot more people because now it's not delayed harvest.
Yeah.
Is that section ever delayed harvest, or is that year round?
Below the dam?
Below the dam.
Below the dam I don't believe there's a delayed harvest there now. It's just up above the dam.
Just above
where
the
it
dam.
dumps into
It would seem to me that would be a good place for a delayed harvest, below the dam.
So they've got a delayed harvest section on the Chattahoochee.
Yeah.
As we've talked about before.
Sucks.
It does.
I'm just going to tell you right now.
One of the biggest common complaints with that DH is typically we have high water years, and the fish, because we'll have so much water in Lanier, they have to release it, and they just keep pumping water down through the system. But because last year and this year, it's kind of been low water, and this summer it depends on how it shapes up. How much rain we get.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a dry summer, it'll be the same situation where there's not a lot of water being pushed down through there. So those fish might hold over again, and the DH could be really good again. Or there could be a bunch of high water that's Lanier is going to have to release. And if they do that, all those fish are going to get blown down to West Point, and they'll get eaten or die by the striper.
Okay. That was my next thing is like, I got told there were a lot of striper in the hooch right there.
There is.
And when they stock it, you better get in there quick, or those stripers are going to take it up. And I suggest that's Malpaz. Do we know her? Greetings and salutations all. Hey, Peter.
Oh,
maybe she knows.
Hello, Sea-Star.
Okay, so is that your sister?
Yeah, that's my sister.
Hey, well, good. We got some class added to the show. So thank you for joining us.
She can sass right back though. So just
there's nothing wrong with sass. I'm good with sass.
No, I know.
But she's got to be better looking than you.
He stumped him on that one.
Stumped me on that.
Stumped you on that. All right, continue about the striper.
So, yeah, I learned some really interesting things about the striper. For them to stock striper, how do you guys think they do it?
Well, if you were asking me, I'd say they go up to a put in somewhere and they just dump a bunch of fingerlings in there.
Okay, how big are the fingerlings?
My guess would be 2 to 4 inches.
Okay. So how many fingerlings do you think it takes for them to get 5,000 fish to survive?
I'm going to guess. So this is, let's guess 100,000.
Okay.
Am I good?
Micah, what do you think?
To get 5,000 to survive?
For 5,000 to survive.
To get 5,000 to survive.
So what's the mortality rate?
I'd say it's got to be a lot.
Blake, I'm going to ask you this too. So.
Okay, but we didn't know we were having a test tonight.
No. Wait, but put 100,000 fish in?
I said 100,000.
Okay,
Micah said 50.
You guys are all saying 50 and 100,000 fish. It takes 1 million.
Really?
Striper, fry, or fingerling.
If we were playing Price is Right, I got you though, dog.
I know.
But I was still way off.
So
really, now we're talking just in the river.
Yeah,
that doesn't include lake. That's a river stat.
Yeah, that's the way that they stock the rivers, and that's their success rate, and that's what they found.
Sounds like a daggone waste of time, if you ask me on that.
Well, yeah, it's a big undertaking. So, but again, a lot of people hadn't seen returns that are worth a dang on striper for a long time, either in Lanier or above it, or even, further down with stuff coming up from West Point. But
right.
The past couple of years has gotten better, both in the lake and also down below. But again, like it's a cyclical thing. It's going to go up and down. The lake stuff is not going to be very permanent, because what they're learning is, and you can go look this stuff up on the DNR website. The biologist for the lake goes out and does a reading with dissolved oxygen and temperature all the way down. And what they find typically in the summer is the layer that has enough dissolved oxygen for all the fish is only down to about 30 feet at some points, 30 to 40 feet. Yeah. So that doesn't really give those striper a lot of room and flexibility to go look for the thermocline.
Right.
So that's why it can be a cyclical thing, is depending on the health of the lake and the river. What's coming in the river is going to be what's feeding the lake.
Right.
So it's going to depend on some of those factors. And what do you typically see coming in from the Chestatee and the Chattahoochee, for example?
What do I normally see?
Yeah, like what flows it? What type of runoff and stuff would you typically
Well, it's
see?
just trash coming out of the Chestatee, especially if it rains. It's just mud.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's real muddy.
We're being,
But that's a lot
nasty.
of that's all the road construction, house construction, stuff like that, where it's flowing into the river.
Yeah,
and you mixed in with that, you've got all sorts of like contaminants.
Yeah,
pesticides. That's actually something that one of the old presidents from the Trout Unlimited Gold Rush chapter over in Swanee, a gentleman named Patrick Mawhinney, told me that one of the top contaminants in the river is actually pesticides from runoff in the Metro Chattahoochee, and that's one of the
I would
largest.
believe that.
That's one of the largest
I'd believe that.
suppressors of the bug life in the river. So
would make sense.
and like you don't have that, comparing that to the Toccoa, for example. It's got it's
better water quality.
It's better water quality.
Absolutely.
It's got a complete food chain. You can go down through there. There's not as much erosion on the banks and whatnot. There's moss and grasses all throughout the river.
Grass everywhere.
Yeah.
Grass everywhere. And on the Chattahoochee, it's not like that. It's just not the same.
So, couple things. So, Farmer, what's up, buddy? Pontoon.
Hey,
Jetty
Fishing with
Catfishing.
Farmer. There he is.
Hello from East Tennessee. Appreciate you. Now, the second thing from Jess says we're getting a lot of audio feedback coming through. Guys, if you're experiencing that, just let me know. That might be that one adjustment we have to make. If any of you other guys are hearing any kind of feedback coming through.
Yeah,
so,
if it's feeding back, I can push it back a little.
Yeah, it might be
Pontoon Jody tuning in from
East Tennessee.
Thank you for tuning in.
I think we're okay as far as that was the one you accidentally hit earlier, but you can pull it back up. We'll just see what everybody says. So Landrum 45, hello from Chattanooga. Not for me, so it might just be her. Now her question is this, and this is interesting. What's killing off the strippers? Now I haven't seen anything.
Actually, that's a lot.
OnlyFans is what's killing off the strippers right now, because you ain't got to go nowhere to see them
Xanax
anymore.
and alcohol.
So so the strippers, hey, we're all for them
now,
I guess, but I don't know what's killing off the strippers.
Bass and catfish.
She's talking about stripers. So but I always love it. You got to hit the stripper thing, So, but okay, so what they are stocking. Bass, catfish, is that what's killing them off, or do you think
it's striper or
STDs? We're from Atlanta, so it's a fair question.
Yeah, that's true. I'd say a large.
They can't. Okay, so striper
just get eaten by other stripers too.
That's
their fish.
Yes.
I mean, they're getting eaten.
Let's be real. Eggs are something that are in all of these streams. It doesn't matter if it's cold water, cool water, or warm water stream. There are things that are reproducing, putting eggs into the water 12 months out of the year, right?
Yeah.
So striper eggs actually float on top of the water. That's how they have to reproduce. And that's why they need to they will come in from the sea, swim all the way up.
Yes.
Spawn.
Right.
Their eggs float back, then they hatch and they can swim down. And that's when they're able to actually, live in the river at that point. There's typically not enough river in areas of the Chattahoochee for the reproduction to happen. Not in the upper section.
Yeah, Pete said false run.
Yeah,
Is that
we have false runs for sure, but like on the lower section, apparently, Alex had mentioned to me that there has been reports of striper reproduction on that lower section.
Okay.
Somehow. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a cool water fish at that point.
Yes.
And something else that, Chattahoochee versus Toccoa in that instance, the Chattahoochee has that world-renowned shoal bass in it. The Toccoa, what's the native bass species in the Toccoa? It's a smallmouth. That's actually any of the streams that flow north out of Georgia. You've got like the Conasauga, for example, Toccoa, Notley, the Hiwassee, all those rivers that flow north, those are actually in the native range for smallmouth.
To which, since you brought it up,
you've
been seeing a few.
We've been catching smallmouth in Georgia.
Yeah, it's true.
He sent me a picture the other day. He goes, check this out, and it was a smallmouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, where in the world did he catch that? Because he was not on a lake.
No,
he was not. And I don't think a lot of people know about it. Again, I told you before, we're not going to burn a spot.
Yeah.
Definitely not going to burn a spot. But was that something you were targeting?
No, that was now. Okay. So, as I mentioned,
just more bycatch.
It was a bycatch.
Knew they were in there, but we weren't specifically targeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We were targeting trout, but as I mentioned, I moved up more towards the mountains, so I've been able to also access some different waters and fish for some different things.
Right.
And I love smallmouth. I mean,
who don't?
There's something wrong with you if you don't like smallmouth.
Yeah, who don't? It's a great fish.
They're a cool fish.
Except, honestly, I think I like them better than largemouth. I would, to me, it's shoal bass, and they're like 1A, and then smallmouth's 1B.
Yeah, I get that. No, I get it.
They're right there. The shoalies take it just a little because they're so much more specialized.
Right.
But the small, it was a total surprise. We're floating through, and Mike had mentioned, he's like, "Hey, man, we've run across these little bass. They might be red eyes. They might be smallmouth. We don't know." And the first one came up and we watched it come up and hit. And I thought it was a good trout.
Yeah.
And we get it into the net, and I'm like, and that's a smallmouth. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
So Pete has the coordinates for you guys, and we'll start putting those up so you know where to go catch these fish. But here's my question.
It's not hard for people to figure out where the smallmouth are. If you logically think about where smallmouth have been, especially where they've been stocked the past several years.
Okay. All right. So there you go.
So
exactly.
Pontoon Jody catfishing. Any tips on releasing stripers alive in the hot summer? They hit my catfish bait, and I hate to see them not make it.
Okay. First question then, Pontoon Jody, are you fishing a lake?
I would say yes. Okay. She's either that or she's in Tennessee. She's either on a big river or one of those lakes. So
if it's a big river, it should be okay to just release because the waters are typically cool enough. But
yeah, Pontoon, let us know where you're fishing at.
Yeah, if it's a lake, that would be the one concern, because if it's coming out of depth, then there's not much you can really do. I mean,
and that's a byproduct, because she's going for catfish, or it's Jody. I don't know if you're a guy or girl. I always just say, so whatever you are, and it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm fishing Watts Bar and the Tennessee River.
Okay.
Watts Bar. So Tennessee River, but Tennessee River is a big river that's a little more slow.
It is.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one, because they really do get stressed out in the
and she's
female
a female
angler. I thought I was right.
Nice.
I just want to make sure. So please excuse me. Okay. What do we do though if she does catch one?
Get it off the hook.
Get it off the hook. Don't do no pictures with it. Of course, she's going for catfish. So she don't want them in it.
Minimize time out of the water and how much you're handling them.
That's that. And
do you have to fizz them jokers?
You could. Yes, I was going to say having a fizz tool on hand is incredibly important. That's going to relieve the pressure from their swim bladder, so that the fish can actually go back down and equalize itself.
And just reviving them. Just sit there with them in the water for a little while.
So
if you can,
it's actually better.
I mean, that's the best way to.
What you want to think about too with the striper is, if it's under 20 pounds, you can use a net with it pretty easily. It's not if you got a big net. Anything over 20 pounds. What's up, Walker?
So David Hubbard says soda works.
That's the fizz. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does work. I
It
don't
does.
care.
It does.
I carry Mountain Dew in the.
I've heard.
Listen,
I don't ever have to do that most of the time though. So
and I tell you, I got a question. I know you. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I got a question for Jody, because let me tell you something, Jody. I grew up. First of all, I got told I need to do more female anglers on this thing. So one day I might need to have you do a little podcast with you about catfishing in Tennessee from a female perspective. So we might have to do that. But my question is, I was told growing up, old wives' tale, whatever you want to call it, if you get finned by a catfish, to take the tail and wipe it across, and it doesn't get sore. Now listen. I'm telling you the honest truth, though, Phil.
I've never heard that.
I haven't heard that either.
Yeah, them saltwater catfish.
Not the saltwater. That's a whole different booger. We're talking about channel cats and all that. And listen, guys, I'm not lying to you. It works.
Really?
Hog Wild, look at that. Yeah.
Pee on it. Yeah.
Hog Wild Fishing says Watts Bar doesn't have a shortage of big striper. I've heard this as well. I've caught over 20 fish that were 20 plus pounds in a 4-hour period multiple times up there. I've heard of other anglers doing the same thing. And with those big fish like that, what they typically do, this is what I was getting to, is when you get above that 20-pound range, it's really not good to get those fish out of the water very much.
Gotcha.
So when you get them up alongside, if you can get a boga grip on them, and keep them in the water, they're going to stay in the water. Yeah, and you have control.
Oh well, so that's a lie. So I guess that's a lie on my wiping the tail on it. So
there it is.
But you know what? I had a guy tell me one time too, and it hasn't been too long ago, and Blake might remember this, that when people have fish in the water and you're trying to revive them, that the pulling them backwards does nothing.
No, that actually
not good.
That's like choking. That's like that'd be like someone choking.
Their gills are designed to have water moving through their gills.
Not
backwards.
So so when people are going forward and backwards and forward, it doesn't help them.
I see it all the time, even with trout fishing. People try to revive them that way. Best way is just hold them in, let the current.
See, Fishing with Farmers says it works with saltwater catfish.
This is growing up in the South. We just rub something on everything.
Yeah,
rub
some, like who is Chris Tucker said? Rub some tussin on it.
Tussin on it.
Yeah.
Do you guys know who Moises Alou is?
Of course.
Do you know that before every game he would pee on his hands?
That does not surprise.
And you know why he did it?
Why?
He said it kept his fingers from cracking. I'm not lying, guys.
Everybody's got their own thing.
They got their thing. He would pee on his hands.
Got their own
listen,
thing.
now again, he didn't tell me that directly. I don't have his phone number. I'm just saying, you can pee on it, rub a pinch of snuff on it. I tell you, that does work for bee stings.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that.
Yes, it does.
She said, "Sure, I'd love to be a guest. I've won Female Angler of the Year the last 2 years at CatCon." Oh, dude, we got a celebrity in the house.
There you go.
Well, I tell you what, hey,
Pontoon Jody's all about the catfish. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your biggest? Tell us about your biggest cats there.
Okay,
Miss Jody.
You do that.
I'm curious.
And if you're on Facebook, message me at Danny Pruitt with your contact information, and we can put something together. So she's not just any angler.
No.
She is
somebody.
The Female Angler of the Year the last 2 years at CatCon.
Yeah.
Now, had I not known, if you said CatCon, though, that sounds like that stuff, that Comic-Con or whatever they do all that down there. Everybody's dressing up like weird people and all that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. Rub a pinch of snuff on it. I was in Hog Wild. I was fishing for catfish with cut bait. And then your sister actually had some real serious questions. How deep do they usually swim and live at? I'm assuming she's talking about the striper.
Yeah, striper typically follow the thermocline. So,
but what about a river?
Well, that's the whole thing. Even in a river, they will follow the thermocline. There's going to be parts. So even when you have a river flowing below you, you're going to have springs that are still welling up in it. And they can be cold springs. They can be cool springs. They can be different temperature springs. So they'll find places like that to hang out if it's providing a different level of thermocline for them.
Dude, check that out.
What?
63-pound blue, 43-pound flat, 16-pound
That
channel.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Heck, a 63-pound blue is doing some work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my God. A 43-pound flat is big, too. Holy cow.
So hog off just cleaning it with antiseptic. Probably so, but I grew up in the generation of drinking out of water hoses, driving with no parents smoked in the car. And all that.
Seriously,
we were built differently. I'm gen, whatever gen I am.
I think
I don't know.
I call it it's a refined taste to have a sip of water from a garden hose, man. Like
Oh,
that
yeah,
takes
absolutely.
me back.
Yeah,
to
but you got to be
instant childhood.
You got to be smart and let that. If it's out in the summer,
Yes,
you
have
gotta
to
let
wait
that
until
water
it get
go.
the
you don't want that hot
goes.
water.
Good
dude.
Get
Lord.
rid of the hot.
Yeah, I got in trouble with that one time. Let's just say you don't spray it on your buddies after, or your brother or anything when it's been hanging out.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I mean, 63-pound catfish anywhere.
It's a good catfish.
That's a tank right
Yeah.
there. So,
Dude, that is awesome.
It's a good one.
all right. So Pontoon Jody, you are now the king catfisherman around here.
Apparently,
Wayne.
so that is awesome, man.
We will do
Queen.
that. Huh?
Queen, not king.
Oh, yeah.
Queen,
Excuse me,
yeah.
queen. I don't mean to be insensitive. I don't mean to. So farmer caught a 50-pound blue out of chick 3 or 4 weeks ago. He caught it on an underspin.
That's awesome.
Water from the spigot. Yeah, that's right. So we've done all that.
Yeah.
And Hog Wild wants to know, Pontoon Jody, you guys are having a conversation in the
comments.
chat,
See, that's
so-
what's so cool about having the comments is you'll see that
yeah.
happening. It doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday night or a Thursday night for Fish North Georgia.
It
You're
makes it.
guaranteed to have some stuff like this
Yeah,
pop
it's
up.
good.
Oh,
It's good
we
to have
do,
people
and we've
talking.
already talked about strippers, and
Yeah.
how
What their causes of death were.
The causes
Yeah.
of death of strippers in Atlanta. I mean,
It's an intriguing
it's a
subject.
sad thing. Listen, I don't know, but I don't frequent those places, guys. I don't know about you guys. Y'all are
No.
young. I don't do that
No,
stuff.
I don't need to.
Blake back there
No.
probably does.
No.
Blake's
Blake's-
dying back there.
He's
Good
trying not
Lord.
to die, but he's being the responsible dad most of the time.
He is. But I told him he needs to quit hanging out at little 5 points. He wouldn't cough like that so much. Strippers, stripers, and everything in between. Well, that's the show
Yeah.
here, so that's what we do.
Yeah.
But so the Dacoa, we're talking about the smallmouth and
Yep.
up in those type of rivers. Any of those rivers that all have anything other than smallmouth, like a big predator, or is the big brown trout
What's that
the
thing
major
you caught
predator?
the
Like
other day?
muskie, I know we don't have muskie hardly anymore. We got a few
Okay,
here and
so
there.
it's
Or pike or anything like that.
we don't have
No
okay.
pike.
We have pickerel.
Yep, a lot of pickerel.
Pickerel is what is native to Georgia. It's in the same, I think, genus, but it's the same part of the family as pike. That's just a colder water version of it. Pickerel is warmer water.
Is there perch on the Tacoma? I swear
Yeah,
I've
there's
seen
perch,
Oh,
yellow
absolutely.
perch
I
in the
seen, I,
Tacoma.
seen, I seen a big one floating.
Yeah, I was going
over
to say there's some big yellow perch in there too.
Those
Yeah.
things taste good.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
that's what I've heard. I haven't eaten one yet, but
Yeah, but
You haven't eaten a perch yet?
no.
And
Well-
you go up to Alaska and all that, they don't eat that stuff
I
up there?
ate plenty of whitefish up there. I can tell you
Oh,
that.
that's right.
whitefish. Yeah,
Whitefish.
Whitefish are
Okay,
good.
yeah,
whitefish
I
is
had
really
whitefish.
good.
Yeah.
I had that in Michigan.
Whitefish is
Yeah,
super good.
Whitefish is good.
Yeah.
But you've got what originally, just like with the smallmouth, all those same rivers, those were also the home to muskie. But has the DNR done anything to stock muskie in the state? No, it hasn't. Would they? Should they? Yeah, I guarantee you, every angler that's in the comment section right now and that watches this video will say, yeah, they wish that Georgia DNR would stock muskie.
Tennessee is very
Tennessee
very
has-
good stocking program on
Yep.
muskie.
Well,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you also have the TVA dumping billions of dollars into those fisheries every year. Whereas who's the biggest not benefactor, but provider of everything here in Georgia? It's the state. We don't have any other supplemental actions like that. So they really, that's why Tennessee has.
It'd be nice to have muskie here in Georgia. I can
It
tell
would
you
be
that.
great. It would be awesome. But
Oh, they're amazing.
the problem
Yes,
is
they are.
without the funding and the support, it's not going to happen. But also, without doing shows like this, we're not going to be able to get the word out. So if that's something that people want to try to catch, you need to comment on this and you need to talk to the DNR, because the Georgia DNR is receptive. They work for us. They're earning their living off of our tax dollars. So we need to make them work for us for these things. So what you can do is, like as we've talked about before, work with Trout Unlimiteds, things like that. Go call the DNR, talk to the different folks there, board meetings that they have. Those are the things that are going to make the differences. And you can't just doing it by yourself is going to make it difficult, but coalesce. That's why we have the comments section, so we can organize.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly right.
I tell you, we went to Tennessee to film.
Okay.
And got on. They don't want me to say where, but the Collins River.
Yeah.
It's out there now,
Yeah,
and
no secret.
no secret. And so that's the first 2 muskie I ever caught in my life.
Yeah.
Dude.
Sweet.
Oh, like that's a different animal.
Oh yeah.
And that is the major.
Farmer, don't be surprised
Yeah.
if you get a text from me. then-
Okay, yeah, he wants to know about that. That is the the apex predator up
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
Micah's caught
record-
some muskie before.
yeah, the record though in
Oh, yeah.
Georgia was caught out of Lake Blue Ridge back
Yeah.
in like the 50s. So,
Yeah.
so when they
It
dammed
was
it up, I'm
56
sure.
or 57.
Yeah, so somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
like a 38 pounder, I want to say.
Why do you think the state of Georgia does not put like Alabama, Texas, Tennessee? Why do we not put the money into
Well,
our
okay.
fisheries like they do, or do we? And we just
Florida
do it in other
puts
ways?
money into their fisheries. Everybody, like anybody who's been down there, they know that from all the presence of in the way that they do things. They put
Yeah.
money in their fisheries. Texas is putting money in their fisheries. They have that the bass program that they have
That
down
lunker,
there.
the lunker,
Yeah,
program.
the lunker
Yeah.
program, which it's growing some big bass. I don't think it's ever going to get world record capacity, but they have some quality upper teens fish coming
Yes.
out. You go further west, there's other states like Utah. They have
Oh, yeah.
a cutthroat slam.
Huh.
You pay $25. $1 goes to the token and certificate that you get once you complete the slam. The other $24 goes right to conservation. So there's in TVA, like we talked about, they have so much financial backing from, or Tennessee has so much backing from the TVA. So it comes down to the support, and it also comes down to the anglers actually being vocal to the DNR.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to use our platforms.
That's really it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's part
absolutely.
of it.
Yeah.
Like you would like to see muskie in Georgia.
We
Oh,
all
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
after
I
what
love
we've
muskie.
learned, yeah, I mean, going back historically, there's sure the environment's changed, but a lot of that has to do with the lack of proper management, not from us, not from the DNR necessarily. It could be from other entities like roads, municipalities, things like that.
We're having to send our money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, well, they're not dealing with things properly, whether it comes from
Yeah, they're
like
going to do that over
erosion.
prioritizing, stocking and
Yeah. So doing
fisheries.
things where, people can get organized to do like stream work together, like the Crayfish Creek with the Trout Unlimited group down.
We're laughing at the comment section.
Yeah, that's
DNR loves strippers.
they do.
That's
They
what,
do.
yeah, I get it.
They
I
do,
get
especially
that.
down in that the tubing section down there in the summer on the DH section for the hooch. Oh yeah.
Is it kind of like up here on Amicalola Creek where it looks
Yeah.
like a bunch of walruses laying around in bathing suits?
I wouldn't say nothing, Danny.
Huh?
Look at yourself.
I don't know lay on rocks, so Blake, I'm not laying on rocks. I'm serious. It looks like one of them California pictures. You get down there, and I mean, there's some big girls laying down there on them rocks. You don't know how to answer that, do you? There,
No, down there in that
I was trying
section,
to make feel uncomfortable.
it's mostly you got a bunch of really, really drunk people that are so drunk that there's not enough DNR presence or LEO presence that the tubing
Yeah.
companies will ask the fishermen to go down and rescue people because they'll get all messed up, and
Yep.
like it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be our responsibility to do their job. And it's again, a lot of this comes back to having to be very active and get the DNR to
Mhm.
work for you rather than work against you.
But is DNR constrained by budget?
They are.
They
Oh,
are.
they are.
I mean,
That's one of the
it's
absolutely.
not
biggest
that the
things.
guys that are out there aren't doing their job.
No,
There's just
no,
not
no,
enough
and
of
that's the
them.
thing that's the thing that I
Yeah,
want
they
to
only
make
have
clear
so much
too.
they
Is
can
like
work with.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
the folks that do all the work that they do, God bless them for what they have to work with. Like Hunter, that the guy Hunter Roop that's responsible for Lake Lanier and the Hooch, the amount of water he has to cover a 37,000 acre reservoir, and he also has to cover the upper Hooch and the tailwaters.
One guy.
It's a lot.
Are you telling me we got one game warden for that whole area?
No, he's not the game warden. He's the biologist.
Oh, the biologist.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
The
Like,
game
good
warden.
Lord, I thought we
Okay,
had
no.
more than that.
It's funny you
we
mentioned
definitely have more than that.
LEOs.
They're even
So,
still stretch them.
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
So
yeah.
They are. They're,
from the
they're
last
stretched
thing
thin,
that
for
I
sure.
heard, it was something like, so we've got 159 counties in Georgia.
Mhm.
There is one LEO for every 2 counties in Georgia. So we got about 80 LEOs to cover the whole state.
The hell's an LEO?
Law enforcement officer.
Law enforcement
DNR.
officer.
So a DNR person.
Law.
Yes.
Game warden.
Well, if
Yep.
they drop that college education, they
Mr.
probably have some more
Mr.
people.
Kansas
Whoa.
City law
Hey,
dog.
no, so Blake, you said that about dropping the college part. We had a guy in here last week that said that they were loosening.
If they had drop it, you'd have a lot more people. in
Yeah,
it.
you still got to do certain things, and you can get hired there, but you can't advance until you get your college. Like you can come in and
that's
start something like
ridiculous.
that.
Okay.
Okay,
Makes
so
sense.
yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, we appreciate the work that the game wardens and all do. I'm
Yeah,
keeping
we
them
really
guys
do.
on my side.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely
For
not.
sure.
But you're right. If there's
Well,
only 2 per
Yeah.
or however
It's
many per
they're
carriage,
constrained.
yeah,
You know, it comes down to that. It's the same thing for the folks that
Can't
are
be
like,
everywhere at once. You know?
yeah,
yeah, I know.
or the
kind of
folks
deal.
like the biologists. You know, like, do they have the proper funding to do the studies that they need to do?
Right.
You know, to get interns or get people that could volunteer to help out with these studies. You know,
Yeah.
like we just learned that we no longer have a trout biologist in Georgia. Apparently, the one that we just had decided to go take care of her family, and there is nothing wrong with that. By all means,
Yeah.
do it. But that's a critical piece in the DNR that we have to have, and
Oh yeah.
there's really not a lot of carrots the way that the DNR has structured things for these people to be around. So, like, we didn't have a trout biologist for many years, and
Right.
then since I started fishing again, they've hired 2 in, and both have resigned. So,
Interesting.
Okay.
you know, and they, for whatever their reasons were, that's fine, but it's something to where there are people that are going to be living here for, you know, the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years that want to fish for trout or smallmouth or
Right.
striper.
Yep.
And they want to know that there is someone who's got some understanding and some tenure over these waterways. And you just don't see that kind of carryover, unfortunately.
Especially how large the trout fishing is in the state of Georgia. You
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
you want to have someone doing that.
yeah, you know, we guide on so many different waters all across the state, and the claim is 4,000 plus miles of trout waters.
Right. So I of course, this is the way this show happens every
Yeah.
time. We have all the best made plans, you know, what we're going to talk about. The comments, and
Yeah.
we ended up going wherever the comments take us. And so I didn't think about talking that much about the DNR and the way we spend our money and
Yeah.
all that. If you could make one change, and Micah, this question is to you, if you can make one change in how we spend our money as far as fisheries, what would it be?
One change. Oh man.
That's
so many
a
more
tough one.
than one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give
I mean-
a couple of them. Yeah, just throw them out there.
One, having a trout biologist would be
That would be a good
help.
start.
would
That
be a
just-
That would
good
help.
start. No, I mean, I think stocking programs could be, you know, obviously they have them, but doing them a little bit better would probably be.
What are they doing wrong with them?
I wouldn't say they're doing anything wrong per se, but with different species, even just like we were talking about, muskie in general.
Mhm.
You know, muskie we were just talking about. It'd be nice to have muskie in somewhere in Georgia. You know, you wouldn't have to go out of state to fish for them.
Because I'm taking my dollars out of state to fish for them for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have, especially since they're, you know, native to North Georgia.
Right.
So it'd be nice to have some place we could do that. At least with native fish.
Yeah.
I get, you know, if it's a invasive species or something that's been stocked, I get that. But it'd be good to put more money into the fishing side of it, because I think it would.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you pay extra on your license
Yes.
if it went directly to a stocking program for something other than stripers?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like different species like muskie and smallmouth and all that. You would be willing to pay
yes.
an extra $5. And I guess it goes to how many fishing licenses are sold in the
Yeah,
state of Georgia.
So
That could be a chunk, but we'd have to make sure it's earmarked for that, because Lord knows if you get it in the general budget,
They really well.
we would do that.
For me to answer that question that you just posed, it's super simple and it's all encompassing. Just habitat restoration. Doesn't matter the species, doesn't matter the body of water. That covers everything. Rivers, lakes, ponds,
Yeah.
streams, high mountain, doesn't matter. You know, lowland, Piedmont, wherever. Habitat restoration is one of the biggest issues that is not
yeah,
addressed.
I agree with that.
And
Absolutely.
and that's covered up through stocking programs, unfortunately, because from a biological standpoint,
Yep.
the body of water can only hold so much food, right?
Yeah.
Shan has mentioned that. Shan talks about that. Shan O'Gorman,
Right. Aquatic biologist.
full of freaking knowledge. I'm glad I've been able to fish with that guy, take him out, get him on some trout as well. But he's made good points with, it doesn't matter if it's a lake or a river. there's only so much amount of fish that can hold in an acre of water based upon how much forage or food's available.
Right. Yeah.
So
you got a carrying capacity.
Yeah, you have a carrying capacity.
Absolutely.
So if you improve the overall habitat, that improves the overall carrying capacity, and everybody wins.
Speaking of carrying, hey, Tatum Pruitt, she says hello. That's my daughter down there working at Choa.
Nice.
You know,
Hi, Tatum.
So
hey there.
That's my girl right there. So what'd you say there, Blake? Huh?
Yeah, Blake, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, them two, they rag each other. So,
I see.
So going back to your question, Danny, yeah, I would absolutely pay more on a fishing license for it to go towards either, habitat restoration, like Phil was saying, or just,
it'd be nice.
Stocking. Yeah. So for example, when I go to Alaska, I have to buy obviously a year-long license.
yeah.
Tell them about all the licenses that you have to buy.
So
I didn't realize.
So
this.
for my non-resident.
Well, let's do this real quick. All right, Blake, hit it on me real quick before you get started.
Okay.
So this gentleman, just before we get, you're going to wonder why we're talking about Alaska. Micah goes up there and guides. He's going to be leaving in a day or two or something like that.
I leave on the 27th.
On the 27th, and he's going to be gone till October.
Mhm.
So you spend a sizable time in Alaska, and you've been doing it for 8 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you guys will understand why he's talking
Yes.
about Alaska. All right, pop it back on.
Yeah. So up in Alaska, when I buy my fishing license, obviously you have to buy it for a year for non-resident. That's around $50. That includes, trout, all 5
Hey,
species.
are you married?
No.
You looking to be?
He's in a long.
I'm in a long
Never mind.
relationship
You're
right here.
about the same
Yeah.
age as Tatum. So you're good.
Well, he's got himself a Georgia Tech grad. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
doing okay.
My daughter saves lives.
No, I
No,
told
I'm
her.
just
I
kidding.
told her. Yeah.
a nurse.
Yeah, no, I told my
Okay.
girlfriend when I met her, I said, one of us has to have a real job. So
She's
I have to
gonna-
pay the bills. So
She's gonna kill me. She's gonna kill me when I did that. All right, but go ahead. So you do what on licenses?
So with the license, it's around $50. Covers all 5 species of salmon, trout,
Right.
and all the species we fish for. So on top of that, I pay for our king stamp, and our king season is 2 months on our river,
Right.
max. And that's another $100 just for that.
Okay.
Just
So I
for
pay
60 days of fishing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's just to go for, and a lot of that money, which Alaska is great about putting money back into fisheries, because
Yeah,
it's a large chunk of money
that's what their
that's
their
a
economy
lot of,
depends on.
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot
Yep.
of it's, tourism and fishing mainly. But yeah, so, I'm fine spending that because it all goes to the state and when I have to.
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, whether or not I fish for them, I have to have that king stamp, just with taking clients and stuff out. But I think, in regard it, raising it would obviously probably make some people not want to get a fishing license, obviously, if it were that expensive here.
Yeah.
But Alaska makes more sense because most people are spending, several thousand to go up there and do a trip anyways,
Right. Yeah.
which, what's another $150?
Sure.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, no, I think doing that would be a great thing.
I think raising the license though, but the only problem when you start raising stuff like that is again,
Well, you get kickback.
you do,
Oh,
but
absolutely,
you
yeah.
don't know where the money's going. I mean,
No, you don't.
that's what
There's
I'm
no
saying.
guarantee with it.
If you could guarantee 100% that, let's say we raised the fishing license by $10 in the state of Georgia,
Yeah.
and everybody's going, oh my God, $10. Well, I mean, it's a freaking meal at McDonald's now.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
your ass ain't stopping eating at McDonald's.
Yeah.
$10 a year, but if you could guarantee that $10 was going to nothing but habitat restoration or stocking, I would be all for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down for it.
I mean,
Absolutely.
but
I
who
would too.
wouldn't be?
Well, right now, I mean, Georgia raised their license fees, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. It went from being
That sounds
14 or $15 for as long as I could remember.
Yeah.
Now it's $28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I get the wildlife back, that
and-
sportsman, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
same-
what
yeah.
it
So
really
same
is.
that's just for the license by itself.
Yeah.
If you get the hunting stuff, the sportsman's package,
Yeah.
it's going to be more.
So that's what I said. I didn't know
all
how much it
encompassing.
went up. It just
Yeah.
because I just pay that one thing. every
So it did go up, but it was supposed to dump more money into the DNR to be able to help out with other things. But
right.
the only thing that we've really seen any differences is in the size of the fish that they're stocking now, which
Are they bigger?
they're bigger. Yeah. I mean, I know that they've, I've seen some pictures of some 19 to 20 inch rainbows
Mhm.
coming out of the Chattahoochee. And that's a spectacular
Yeah.
rainbow trout for that river.
Yeah. So
You know?
farmer says need to start a program like take 10, meaning you either take 10 minutes to clean up or take 10 pieces of trash out of the water or the shoreline, and that's fine.
That wouldn't take long.
It wouldn't take long.
No.
You could do
No.
that. The problem is getting people to actually do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter P wants to know, how do we find you in Alaska there, Micah? Where are you actually at, or where are you going?
So I'm in a town called King Salmon. It's
a hell of a name.
Yeah, it is. So it's a 45-minute flight, west of Anchorage. Pretty small town. There's like 2 bars.
I only need one, but that's okay.
That's true. That's it. We only go to one.
So, 2 bars in town. We only go to one.
Yes.
What does that tell you about the other bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tells you enough.
That's right.
But yeah, so I just work at a lodge up there, so I'm pretty much at the lodge from when I get up there till when I leave, come back here in October.
In King Salmon.
Yes, in King Salmon.
But you were telling me, like, you do all kinds of things, like you do like the float plane trips and all kinds of stuff.
So we're located in Katmai National Park. For people that don't know, that's, if you see any National Geographic photos or videos of bears on waterfalls,
The bears at Brooks Falls that are catching
Camp.
salmon.
Yeah,
That's
That's him.
we're in that park. So
there.
the park's about 5.9 million acres. So it's a pretty big section of land.
It's not Dawson Forest, but
It's
yeah,
huge.
dude.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big park. And we get all kinds of fish up there. We get all 5 species of Pacific salmon, rainbow trout, some of the biggest rainbow trout in the world. Dollies, grayling, everything.
You know what I did not know? I did not know that a steelhead is actually a rainbow that's just in a lake.
Yep.
I did not know that until this year.
So a lot of the fish that we fish for on our river, that's the huge debate up there, right? Everyone wants to call them steelhead.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to call them rainbows. So our fish, I'm not going to rule out that none of them go to the salt. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
But I would say the majority of them do come out of Knack Knack Lake, which feeds our river. And that's
what lake?
Knack Knack Lake.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's a Indian or native
Inuit.
Yep.
Inuit or whatever
It's a
term. Okay.
native,
All right.
Yeah. So that's where pretty much all the fish go and are there till September. So springtime, obviously our river's closed till June 8th for the rainbows to come in and spawn. Once it opens up, obviously there's still rainbows in the river, but a lot of them go back into that lake because they're all spawned out. They've done their
They make their run.
Yeah, they make their run. They want to go fill back up.
So they go back into the
Put weight
lake
on.
where there's pretty much an endless food supply. They're eating between all the salmon smolt that are in the lake. They have so much food to eat. That's where they get big. I mean, that's why we're catching 30+ inch rainbows up there.
Yeah, 30.
I mean, they have
37 inch
they
rainbows.
have
Wow.
an almost endless food source.
Yeah.
So they come out of there in the fall down into our rivers. Once the sockeye and other salmon are in there spawning, they're getting ready to spawn. They come in and they're just gorging themselves on eggs. So pretty much all year, those rainbow trout are eating. So they just get heavier and heavier and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
That's Alaska, man. That's just
Oh my gosh.
everything-
Yeah.
Everything.
But
in
yeah,
Alaska.
so we fish on the main river, like I was telling you earlier. We go do flyouts. So if you want to do a flyout, a float plane comes and picks us up at the dock in the morning. We fly out to a remote river and fish for the day, and they come pick us up when we got to go back to the lodge for the evening. If weather permits, you get picked up.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what happens if the weather does not permit a pickup?
Most of the places we go to, and we check weather ahead of time, so we're not put in that position. But sometimes, obviously, if anyone's been to Alaska, then they know
That's right. Yeah.
weather changes pretty quickly up there.
Yeah. So what happens though?
So most of the time it's pretty good, but if weather does, get bad, then the pilots will try to come in and get you. They won't just be like, "Yeah, we're not coming." Pilots will try to come in if they can. If not, then usually we're prepared anyways. We bring emergency blankets with us. And there's plenty of salmon to eat if we have to.
So
Somebody's usually got a bear gun
Yeah, I mean, we have everything. Like
bear
I always
spray.
carry an inReach with me out there.
right.
So if I need to message the lodge, tell them everybody's okay or something like that. We haven't had a bad time with getting back to the lodge and float planes, at least.
Yeah.
I think there's been a couple times down at this place called Ugashik that if had been the night, it's got notoriously bad weather down there, especially in September when we go. It'll get super foggy. The ceiling drops down to,
Oh yeah.
right on the
25,
water.
30 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just can't fly in that. But other than that, we've had a couple times where people had to stay the night.
Yeah.
But there's thankfully a cabin there that they can.
Okay, so you do got a cabin
At that place,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so you're not sitting out in the woods like
No,
that.
no.
I tell you what, one pretty cool thing is we were kind of talking before the show, Mike and I, about possibly, and it might end up being for next summer. I guess it takes putting together a package to where a group of us, bless you there, Blake.
He's dying over there.
We got to make sure Blake is okay and not dying back there.
Hey,
But
coming back.
He's coming back. He's back. These summertime colds and stuff like that are just vicious for Blake back there. So I feel for you, dog. But we're getting ready to put a package. We're thinking about putting a package together where a bunch of us can get together and go
to Alaska.
Yep.
As a group and spend a week up there. So Little Five's still hitting. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Talking about
Is that Blake?
Yeah.
Listen, he's about to die.
That's good.
He is about to die. So he's being a soldier back there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're thinking about doing that. And that ought to be a pretty cool thing if we can get all the details worked out.
Yeah,
if we do, of course,
absolutely.
we will definitely let everybody know about that. Now, let's get back into the fishing.
Okay.
Okay. Not the getaway. I think Alaska's just freaking awesome, but I haven't been there.
Wait till you get up there.
Oh, I know.
You'll be ruined.
You gonna make it?
it?
You need me to switch with you? I can switch. I can go back there and run this thing.
I'm good.
I want to talk about ways to target some of these fish. And I know you guys fly fish a lot, but I want to cover some of the other ways before we get into fly fishing.
Absolutely.
About it. Like,
yeah.
you know, I hear guys talking about throwing jerk baits, and we're talking about not catching your stockers. We're talking about going for trophy size fish.
Yeah.
The different ways a guy, whether it be the hooch or the Tacoma, and I'll tell you, I'll let you cover the hooch if you'll cover the Tacoma different ways. We'll do it that way. So we'll start with you, Phil. If a guy's on the hooch, he's not a fly fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to go for something more than just stock trout. Wants to go for some trophies, or what I consider a trophy.
Yeah.
What are some of the various techniques that he can use?
Well, you got a couple of different options there. I've some of the most interesting techniques that I've heard about is
Pop the camera on him there, dog.
jigging. Jigging. There's different aspects to the jigging. You can use marabou jigs that can go out. They can get you some smaller fish. Fish of all sizes will eat those because they emulate so much different types of forage. Everything from sculpin to a crayfish, and even things like a stonefly, for example. But you can also get them bigger where they're shaped like a leech or something like that. And it's almost like a streamer,
Right.
but it's not. And we've seen, and I've mentioned this on other shows that we've been on, or that I've been on, where people are kind of crossing boundaries with stuff now. So say, for example, you don't want to fly fish necessarily, but you want to try something different with your casting. You can get a casting bubble.
A what?
Casting bubble.
Okay.
So it's basically, it looks like a clear bobber. It's got a piece of silicone tube that runs through it. And it's got, that tube has two little plastic caps on the end.
Good night, Jody.
Night, Jody. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh yeah.
And what you do is you run the line through the middle of it, through that silicone tube, and you can slide it up and down the line. You just twist the little silicone tube and it'll lock on the line. But because it's got the connection with the rubber tube, you can tilt it and get water inside that bubble, and then you got to wait so you can cast.
Okay. And
So
still
it'll get
use like a fly or something like that?
Yeah, you can use extremely light things, because that's the thing is there are streams here in Georgia that, because of the geology, they have a little bit better bug life than others. And it also can be elevation dependent, you know? So, you know, if you're going for blue lines, you're going for small brook trout, you guys aren't going to worry about this stuff anyways, because you already know what you're going for.
Right.
You're off the beaten path as it is.
Yeah.
So for the average angler, if you're wanting to go progress, there's going to be a size progression in what you do. I see a lot of guys, they'll start out throwing like small rapalas, and then they'll move to bigger rapalas. They'll move to bigger rapalas. That's one way you can do it. Same thing with spinners. Those Joe's flies.
The spinner with a fly on the end of it.
So that's one of the coolest things that I've seen people take. And I did this for a while as well too. I haven't done it in a long time, but I watched some guys doing, I think it was like muskie fishing up north, and they had some big stuff like that where they were putting different like fluffy fly feather material on the back of these spinners for muskie. And I was like, well, I've got like one for a trout. Would that work? And it did.
Right.
So that's another way, is those Joe's Fly spinners are surprisingly deadly for small fish, but they get, if you take off the small fly, you can put other bigger flies on there and go to that as well.
And get the bigger fish.
Yeah. So
real quick, how can somebody reach you for a guided trip here in Georgia?
that's a good question.
Like him.
You have to reach out to Danny up here at Fish North, Georgia. I haven't been on Instagram. I kind of haven't logged back on in 6 months. Don't know if I
can hook you up with him.
Yeah,
I can
Danny can get you guys in touch with me. No problem.
Yeah, just hit me on Messenger on Facebook.
Yep. So,
and if you don't have that, put your in the comment section after this show, put your contact information if you want the whole world to know it. But just figure out a way to get it to me, and we'll
get you squared away there.
Actually, you can text me at 678-283-6700. Text me your contact information, and I'll make sure Phil will get it, and he can get in touch with
there you go
on that for that.
But yeah, and that includes, I mean, we've got access to small private waters, Toccoa. We could do the hooch. There are also bass programs that we have that we could run, whether it's smallmouth or some other type of bass, like some red eye, some Coosa bass. There's several different programs that we could run if you guys want to come fish. So, but going back to your question, on the hooch, you got to look at the food chain in the river.
Right.
And this is why that, to me, it's more, if you want to get good on that river, it's more about the mental aspects of it. Sure, you can do like some people in these tailwater community pages that
here we go.
That think that they that they've caught some fish, that they know what they're doing. But when you take a holistic look at the fishery, there's cycles to it and how it works, and you got to figure that stuff out. And with the hooch specifically, going back to why the DNR stuff is so important, that's part of the reason why I kind of don't fish it as much these days now, is because I want to go fish a better fishery. Like,
right.
Like the Toccoa is it's got a full food chain. There are fish of all sizes in there.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, it's not going to surprise me if we have cutthroat trout that show up there, because Tennessee has cutthroat trout, and they're just downstream, down below.
So you think eventually they might come make their way up?
You never know. I mean, the same thing with the muskies, though. They're kind of stuck behind dams down there. That's the problem.
Okay, I got you. That's true. Same question to you, Micah. Like on the what are some of the ways conventional guys can go after some of the bigger fish on the Toccoa?
So I learned it kind of backwards. I started with flies. So, but no, conventional stuff. Same kind of deal with Toccoa. As far as the hooch goes, I usually downsize on the Toccoa for the most part. I'll fish smaller stuff, and it kind of will depend on what the release is looking like. With big water, when they're releasing, I'll throw, big Rapalas work. They cover water really good.
Now, when you say big Rapalas, are we talking about like what specific Rapala? Like the countdown kind of.
You could do countdowns. You could do some of the shad wraps.
Shad wraps, okay.
Yep,
okay.
Shad wraps work.
All right.
Stuff like that works great. And like even Phil was saying, if someone there's not super into fly fishing yet, you can still run bobber rigs.
Yeah.
With a spinning rod.
Yeah.
You can rig them up the same way you do with the fly rod. You can throw flies, or you can throw artificial stuff on there.
Yeah.
They'll still work the same way. As long as you're fishing, the right bugs and right flies or artificial stuff, you're going to catch fish doing
So I'm not going to be able to go over there with a spinner bait though, and like I would on.
Oh, you can still.
That's what I'm saying.
I've actually seen people catch rainbows on spinner baits. Yeah. I'm not even kidding.
Yep.
I'm just saying that, what's considered a trophy to each of you. Micah, you first What's considered a trophy? Brown and rainbow.
For either 20 or bigger.
20 or bigger.
20 inches or bigger.
What about you, Phil?
I got to quantify that because it's going to be kind of fishery dependent, like
Let's say on the Toccoa.
On the Toccoa,
we ain't talking about little blue liners. We're talking about
no.
Same with Toccoa.
Yeah,
Toccoa
I think
has
if
some
you're
large
getting to
fish
about
in it.
22 inches, you're doing some work there.
Yeah.
Because of, like we talked about with the hooch, the growth factors that are issues. The DNR in their technical papers that they have, like they've told me specifically that they know that the growth of the fish in the river is 20% lower than the average
on the Toccoa.
On the hooch.
On the hooch.
Than,
okay. On the hooch.
Average for
Right.
trout all across the country. So
okay.
So if you think about it, if you're catching a 20-inch trout on the hooch, you're catching a fish that would be the equivalent of what would be a 2-footer on most other waters.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
So there's really, like, if you're catching fish on the hooch, you're doing some work. But I mean, as we talked, that's half the equation. You got to know how to handle them after you catch it, because
for sure, absolutely.
Flopping them on a boat, keeping them out of the water is not going to do them any good. Keep them in the water.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing I've learned. With going fly fishing with the guys that I've gone Tad, Murdoch, and all that. They try to keep the net in the water.
Yeah,
and try to.
Trout are tough in their own way, but again, I mean, you can't. They're not like a bass to where
they're not a bass. That's exactly
you can't
right.
keep them out of the water like for a very long time. They just don't hold the same way. And the other thing is like they're physically not built the same as bass, so their jaw structure. Bass have a bony jaw structure. That's why you can pick them up, but you can still sprain or break a bass's jaw and kill the fish.
Yeah.
With trout, you can't lift them up by the jaw at all, because not only is their jaw not built to support that, but their whole skeletal system's not. So usually if you see people catching trout and holding them up by their jaw, the fish is gonna die.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, to answer your question, for me, anything on the end of my rod, anything that I catch is a trophy to me. So, but I get that. I know, and again, public water compared to private water is a little bit different equation.
Absolutely.
That. But I think if you catch anything on some of these public things, you get 16, 17, 18 inches. You're getting into
Those are good fish.
That's
a good
good fish, and that's I call the standard stockers snits. Your standard 9-inch trout.
Yeah. Well, now they're 10-inch.
Okay, so 10-inch.
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is on that. So we talked to Toccoa. Wet hands, of course, always wet your hands. That's one thing the guy in Michigan when I was on the Manistee, always wet your hands. And you should really even do that with bass.
You should.
I mean, anytime you should. I know we bass guys are quick to grab by the lip, and I'm as guilty.
Them,
I don't boat flip them because I'm always afraid of my knots.
Yeah.
But I'm not a boat flipper.
Yeah, that's all right.
But in all honesty, though, I mean that we do as a whole. Probably we always talk about fish care, especially in the bass world. We're talking about get them in the live well and make sure you have G juice and ice and all this and oxygen, all that. But a lot of that fish care starts the second you take it out of the water before it even gets to the live well.
Yeah.
Yep,
and I think that gets missed a lot.
It does.
It gets missed a lot. The Toccoa and the hooch are the ones we've been talking about, but what are literally some of the other cold water opportunities we have in Georgia that's not blue line? I mean, are there any other decent? Because
yeah.
What about the river that goes into Carter's Lake? What is that?
The Coosawattee.
The Coosawattee.
But you got out of the Coosawattee, you've got the
there's
Cartacay and the Ellijay River. They don't really stock those until it's like way up in the headwaters, though. Those are good. The Chattooga is really good. That's a super good quality river right there. I know Georgia has developed a trout slam that the DNR came up with, and it is literally just a really poor attempt to sell licenses. Just catching all three of the species, brook, rainbow, and brown.
Right.
But I'd actually approached them several years before about trying to get to where they had a slam to where you could catch in the two tailwaters, a 2-foot fish and then in 2 freestones catch a 20-inch fish.
Right.
And then that would be considered a trout slam. So
Right.
you could catch like, a 2-footer out of the Toccoa and the Hooch, and then, a 20-incher out of the Notley or the Hiawassee, as well as the Chattooga.
Yeah.
know. But, they were like, their concern is, how can it sell licenses? I get that. But you look at stuff like what Utah is doing with their conservation stuff, with the cutthroat slam that I mentioned, it's money going back into the programs a different way. So,
yeah.
But, you've got like the Conasauga,
Right.
Noontutla. Those are not as big a rivers, but they are regarded very highly as good trout waters. You got to work for fish in those waters. That's the other thing too, is a lot of people, even if you tell them how to go catch the fish, less than 96% of those people aren't going to put the time and effort in to go try to catch the fish.
Right.
It's a very small percentage of people that will pursue it. So, again, like just being willing to put the time and effort in here in Georgia. And that's the thing, is because of the way that we're set up, it makes it tougher.
Yeah.
If habitat restoration would help fix a lot of those issues. But
I think a lot of things that
hey, there's Ryan right there.
That Georgia doesn't have, that a lot of these other states that you're mentioning, is Georgia's not really a destination fishery like a lot of these other states are. Like Utah, people are going to fly out there to go fish. Tennessee, even for muskie, North Carolina, stuff like that. A lot of times in Georgia, short of private water, people will fly into for the most part.
Yeah.
Like usually it's someone's in town for a bit, for business or something, or they live here, they want to go fish. And that's usually, how we get licenses and stuff like that sold. Whereas a lot of these other states, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Washington, any of those, destination states, people are going to fly there. They're going here to fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I think in general, even Alaska, that's why they have so much more money to put into their fisheries.
That makes sense.
Because of that.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and answer your sister's question right here. How common is it for people to go fishing in South Georgia / low country area for freshwater fish, and what sort of fish should they expect to find there? Bass.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find any trout in South Georgia.
Catfish,
way too hard. Your basic
bluegill,
fish. Yeah, your panfish,
crappie.
Yeah. So just
catfish.
Your basics. You're not going to find anything like trout below really Roswell in Georgia, and that's about it.
You'll have people in South Georgia and in Florida that they actually pay for people during the winter, fall and winter. They'll have people run trout down there, put them in their ponds and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, overall, it's totally different. It's as the temperature changes, the fish that you can go after is going to change as well.
Gotcha. So, and Ryan says, need more respect on wild trout in Georgia. Tallulah could be great.
Tallulah could be absolutely great, because Tallulah is it's the highest forming river in the state. It actually starts at over 5,000 feet in North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's cold all the time.
Yeah.
It's big too. That's the other thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And there's big fish in there. People randomly catch big fish out of it, but again, it's out of the way. So
yeah, and I think that's one of the things. The better fishing water for trout
is typically out of
the way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of friends outside and around Savannah that are always looking for places to fish in those areas. I'm telling you, if I'm in Savannah, I'm going saltwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go
I'm that
saltwater.
close. I'm going saltwater.
That, or they could drive up to Augusta and fish the canals.
You could do that Savannah River coming out of there, and all that.
Savannah River canals, because they actually have all sorts of cool. They have striper that will be up in there, and they also have smallmouth, hybridized smallmouth with Bartram's bass as well. So there's literally smallmouth in there. It's crazy.
I meant to ask you that question earlier when you held up you sent me that picture of that smallmouth that you caught in location X.
Yeah.
Are we sure that was 100% pure strain smallmouth?
100%.
So definitely wasn't a mean mouth. That's what we in the bass world call
mouth,
no. We call them mean mouth, because Blue Ridge is full of them now.
Yeah.
We're spots and smallmouth.
Yep.
But you're positive that was 100%
straight
up smallie.
Yep.
Yep. It
because of
looked
where
to
it's
be
coming
when we were
from.
out there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm not doubting you. I'm just like,
Yeah.
could those meanmouth though in Blue Ridge come through the spillway and get into the river?
They could, but you're more likely to see them probably swim up from Tennessee or down. South from Tennessee, I should say.
Yeah,
Because the Toccoa flows north.
but you see why I'm asking that question.
Yeah.
And are there spots? I know there's I've heard there's largemouth in certain rivers like the Toccoa. If you get, are there spotted bass in those rivers as well? Spots like we know it.
I haven't seen
Because Blue Ridge is right there, and that lake is now full of spotted bass.
Yeah,
Could they possibly make it through the spillway?
I'm sure
they could.
I'm sure they
or
could.
the dam?
Yes.
Yeah,
but you're not seeing any of them up there?
No, not
And
really.
even in the Chattahoochee, for example, Lanier is a renowned spot fishery.
It is the best in the nation. I don't care what
And-
anybody says.
Yeah, and you know how many spots we see that come through the dam? 0.
That was my next question. Do
Yep.
you see any of that in the Chattahoochee?
All largemouth. That's always what we catch. And yes, we catch a lot of largemouth out of the river, even in the trout section. Like I can specifically remember up near the dam watching a freaking largemouth come out from under a rock. I thought it was about a 22-inch brown. Nope, it was a largemouth.
It was largemouth.
Freaking largemouth.
Really?
Yeah. Alex Green has caught a 7.6 on one of the lower sections of the river. Largemouth.
Now, when you
at
say
a
lower
creek mouth.
sections, are we talking about down below Atlanta or
No.
down?
Below Morgan or below Buford Dam, but
Oh, okay.
it's like a little bit further down. But yeah, I mean, he caught a 7.6 at one of the creek mouths. I mean, and it was a largemouth. I mean, so there's largemouth in the river.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. But now when we get on a lot of these rivers up north, you mentioned red eye and bartrums and all that. Are
Yeah.
those the more common bass species in
Yes.
the rivers up there?
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What's
Yep.
the biggest one of those you've caught? Because those don't get as big as those.
No,
the
they
other
usually
ones.
you won't see them as big as like the largemouth are, but I mean, you probably get I think the biggest like red eye I've seen maybe a couple pounds.
Yeah.
That's a big red eye.
That's a big red eye. That's about what I've seen too. I think, I don't know if I sent you a picture or not of it, but the little Coosa bass, the Coosa red eyes that I've been able to catch, they're literally like turquoise on the bottom.
Really?
Yeah, they are insanely colored. Prettiest bass I've ever caught for sure.
Really cool colors on those
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, it does
Really?
look like turquoise. Yeah.
So do they compete? Let's say you got trout and you got the bass in the same body of water. How much competition for food goes between those
That's a
two?
good
Or are they hunting different things?
No, I think they're eating the same thing.
Yes. So we'll catch them even on guide trips on the Toccoa. We'll catch bass on stoneflies.
Yeah.
We'll catch bass on stoneflies. We'll catch them on streamers. They'll eat little nymphs just like the trout do. It just
Really?
kind of depends. I think it's just like any fish in the river. They're going to eat whatever's in front of them.
So do you think the bass, when you get the largemouth in there, they eating the trout?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep,
Once they get up to
absolutely.
a certain size, they're going to, because they can.
And bass are, notoriously aggressive too. I mean, you'll see them eat stuff as big as they are sometimes.
Yeah.
Just suck it in. It'll be, another fish, its tail sticking out of its throat.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So from Atlanta up is what I consider North Georgia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Atlanta up.
Yeah.
Now, when you get the Chattahoochee down close to Atlanta or any of these other rivers down there, at what point does it quit being referred to as a cold water fishery?
Really at Whitewater Creek in Atlanta is when that's kind
So
of.
the hooch is considered a cold water fishery all the way down to Atlanta?
Yeah, that's the cutoff. Now they don't call that for the trout now because they would need to dredge out behind Morgan Falls Dam
Yeah.
in order to be able to hold the necessary amount of water for it to stay cold down there all the time. That's what we, with all of the construction that Atlanta's had over the past 30 years and the storms and the lack of dredging on the river, it's built up a lot of sand behind Morgan Falls and it has never been dredged. And so that decreases the amount of cold water that can sit behind the dam. And so it takes all that river down below it and makes it somewhat cool. It makes it a cool water fishery.
Not a
Great
cold,
for-
a cool water.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
cool water. So
So it becomes more of a bass fishery.
yeah,
when you
it's
get down
that's
to
why
that
Yes.
level.
striper
Yeah.
are so big down there and so predominant. That's why they have a designated harvest section down there, is because it doesn't stay quite cold enough. But I mean,
more seasonal trout fishery.
Yeah, it's
down
a
that way.
seasonal trout fish.
But I saw what is the fly shop that's in Helen?
Unicorn.
Is that Unicorn? I
Yeah.
saw on their Facebook page
They have striper below
striper
Mill.
all the way up to Helen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because
they run
again,
all the way up there,
all the way up
right
that
behind
far.
their shop.
Well, that
Yeah.
goes
And
back.
how big?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're big, 20
some
pounders,
big ones. Yeah,
25 pounders.
Seriously.
But the thing is this goes back to what I was talking about is if, those fish chase thermoclines in the lake. Well, if the lake's in such good health, then why are there striper at the dam?
When you say at the dam.
In Nora Mill and Helen. Yeah.
In Helen. Why are they
why
running that far?
Yeah. Why now if they're
Are they
if
on a
they're
run?
spawning,
Yes.
if they're on a spawning run,
Right?
that usually ends like about a month ago, 2 months ago. So
Why are they there now?
exactly.
So,
What-
so you're
What
saying
conditions in the lake are causing them to not want to be in the lake and run up the river?
wow, the damn boat traffic.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
I'm
that's
I don't know.
But,
I
but
don't-
that's a good question.
I don't necessarily think it's like anything in nature. There's no really certain time period for fish. There's a generalized, time period for them spawning, but like anything, like with deer hunting, some ruts will last
Right.
months after they're
Right.
supposed to be
Yeah.
going. Same thing with fish, like striper spawning. I think some go in there earlier, some stay in there later to do it. So
and we haven't really had a so Adventure Channel.
yeah.
I have
What's
a
up,
video
Adventure
of the
Channel?
stripers on my page. So evidently you are
Are
North
those
Georgia.
Yeah, I was going to say, are those
Yeah.
stripers from the Chattahoochee?
So there you go. So that's pretty cool. But now,
Yeah.
but it is an interesting question. But that's a long run, and the hooch is not
Yeah.
very big up there.
no, it's
To
not.
be holding 20-pound stripers,
No.
um,
Yeah, it's
there's only so much food once you get up that.
Yes.
But that is an interesting question. Are there any other places in North Georgia that they make a run like that, or they get up into places where you wouldn't normally see them?
I mean, that's the biggest one that I know of up in, I would say, north, where
Yeah.
they run up the upper hooch.
The stripers come up to Nora Mill to eat. Any trout there under 3 pounds
Oh,
get eaten.
absolutely.
That
Yeah.
makes perfect
boy,
sense.
you know
yeah.
what? And I know the trout guys are probably going, oh, I would love to just see
Oh, it's fun to watch.
that action.
I've watched
Guys-
that happen down at
guys,
the
guys will
DH
fish
section.
live trout
Yeah.
down through there to catch them.
Yep.
Stocky
Really?
size
Pete
trout.
has a video of
They
school
will
striper
absolutely
there.
do that.
Now, I know they run from out Lake Allatoona all the way up to Etowah here.
They do.
Yep.
To Dawson Forest, so they get to
Yes.
the shoals where they can't pass.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm familiar with that. But the Etowah is a big, slow-moving,
Yes.
kind of nasty. If we're being honest,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's a very muddy, nasty
Yes,
river
it
most
is.
of the time.
And I think it's
That's some
got
pretty pristine water though when you get up the Chattahoochee that
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot cleaner. And that's what's so strange about some of the rivers. It's like, where does the Etowah and why does it just all of a sudden turn so muddy? Like
Yeah,
that?
exactly right.
far. Well, if
You know?
the Etowah is kind of, if you follow once it gets into Dawson Forest, just a little
Yeah.
bit in that area, it kind of shanks up a little bit. It gets a little nastier and all that. I know the Etowah up above,
It's
say
a lot
in
cleaner,
Dahlonega,
yeah.
it is clean water till you get down somewhere in Dawson County.
Yeah.
It
Dawson
makes, I
Forest.
think where it
Yeah.
slows down.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the Etowah on 52 up there where we get the fish, it's faster moving water.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
when you get into Dawson Forest, it kind of slows down. And where
Mhm.
Amicalola Creek comes in,
Yeah.
it just kind of slows down and becomes more of a meandering kind of.
Yep.
It doesn't have that rapids or something. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that has anything to do with it. He
could
says,
be.
and no, they don't run upstream anywhere else that I've seen in Georgia. So
I don't know of anywhere else that they do either, but
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's
Dude,
pretty
could
dang
you
impressive.
imagine going up there with a fly rod? You're just trying to catch trout, and next thing you know, you just get
Oh,
totally
yeah.
ravaged by a
Hope you
20
got an
pound
8 weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all of a sudden, like that guy said in Michigan when I said I was going after kings with my 6. Gonna be a little
Get sporty.
Yeah.
Gotta be sporty.
That's
Yeah,
very
it's gonna be
sporty.
sporty.
That's I saw that. I saw their Facebook post because I think they were actually like offering where you could come fish right there behind their shop or something
Yeah.
like that. I might be wrong, but I was like, stripers that
Yeah,
far
people
up.
Yeah.
fish right behind their shop.
Very
sure do.
interesting. Okay, so if stripers go up that far, how far up are the shoal bass on Chattahoochee? Do they go all the way up? I mean, is there just that
There's
little
a
section?
Because
Because it's not as big as down in South
no,
Georgia.
but it
No.
kind of transitions. I've noticed that there's a point to where you'll start seeing more Chattahoochee bass, which those are crazy to catch. They don't get big at all, but they're pretty. They have they're almost like fiery red fins.
Yes, yes.
You know, they're very, very, but like they are only found in the Chattahoochee. That's why they're called the Chattahoochee bass.
This is true. I've seen fly rod snap there. One of the stripers is at least 25 pounds.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
We actually went up and filmed with some of the guys at Unicorn, and I forget his name, but for season 2, when we were up in Helen for Oktoberfest filming, and we got to go fish a little section. I believe it was the Hiawassee up there. I believe, I might be wrong, it's north of Helen.
Yeah, that's the high.
So it was some big. It was a little private section.
Yeah,
they had access
big
to
rainbows in it.
I caught a daggum. It was the ugliest ass fish I've ever caught in my life. Looked like a carp with its nose turned like a hog sucker or something like that.
Oh yeah,
dude. Though when I hooked into that thing, it wasn't very big, but it's actually native to Georgia. It's a native. I mean, I would have called it a carp, and that might be insulting the fish, but I want to say it was a hog, and maybe Adventure Channel.
Oh, a hog-nosed sucker.
Hog-nosed sucker.
Yeah.
But it was like that big, and I mean, I thought, good Lord, but that's a native fish to Georgia that I didn't know existed.
No, and it's funny that you mentioned that. There's actually a guy that I know, this guy named Vance. He loves to fish the run for those in the Chattahoochee, because they'll show up in like pods of hundreds down at Jones Bridge, and he'll just go out there and go for him like carp. And he was like, dude, it's like a bonefish in the river.
It's a tank.
Yeah.
Dude, it is
like they fight really good on the fly.
yeah.
So
I done thought I caught one of them big 20-inch trout they had up there.
yeah.
So Mad Fishing Skill said, I had a 20-pound hammer on a stonefly. I intentionally threw on an 8-weight after mentoring the trout campers. $75 striper special right now. Had the drag peeling until it got off. I just seriously, I couldn't imagine hooking it. I talked to you about the king up at Michigan.
Yeah.
Not much I could do other than just let it go whichever way it was going to go, and it would go back that way. But come on, white sucker. Buford Dam has them. Yes, Jones Bridge.
Common
white sucker. I said, come on. I said, come on.
Yeah, come on.
It's been a long day, man. I've been here since 8 a.m. So, but it was pretty cool to see a fish, and they were like, yeah, that's a native fish to Georgia. And I'm like, I'd never seen one before.
Yeah.
And I fished all over, just never caught one, especially on a fly rod.
Yeah.
And I was just in a little run too. I mean, it was a little quick run that you would expect a trout.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you got a freaking sucker on.
Yeah. I felt quickly overwhelmed. I get that.
I bet. Yeah, I bet you did.
I mean, what do you do with those?
Let it run.
So cold water fishing in Georgia. Like, Micah, if you could paint a general broad brush, where are some of the places other than the Toccoa and the Chattahoochee and let's stay public.
Yeah.
Let's stay public, not burning spots or anything, but
that's mainly where I fish.
Okay, well, good. So what are the more popular places or better places for the average guy to go have some success? For trout, bass, whatever. But it has to be a cold water, what you would consider a cold water fishery.
Well, I'm mainly up on the Toccoa, so I fish there quite a bit.
Yeah. I
love fishing Toccoa.
How far from the dam on out? I know
I'll fish all the way down to pretty much McKaysville there.
Yeah, we've almost fished down to the state line.
You can fish all the way down through there and catch fish.
There is a ramp down there in town, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, there's several, for people who don't have boats or just want to bank fish, there's plenty of access points too.
Okay.
There's several ramps in between on the way down that you park at, walk down and fish the banks. So all those.
Is it wadeable?
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah. Yes, you just got to check the release schedule, make sure they're not releasing. But when low water's there's plenty of wadeable water.
Okay.
Hundreds of yards at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
And they have the DNR came out with a trout survey, so they've got a little signs at each one of the ramps and whatnot. QR code, hit it on your phone and fill that out. Gives them info on how the fishery's doing. So
yeah.
That's something really nice that they're doing on the Toccoa. They're not doing it on other fisheries, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Hey, are they stocking those sturgeon?
I know lake sturgeon, yes.
Well, in Dawson Forest, there's a sign that says if you see a sturgeon, report it. Because we were talking about stocking earlier.
Yes.
That's a native fish to Georgia.
That is.
But we're putting money in the stock. How much money how much time are we investing in that?
They are stocking them, from what I understand. I also know of some people there's people that go after them in different ways.
I've never seen one.
Typically for sturgeon, from what I understand, it's all bait. Usually most people throw bait for them.
Yep.
be like fish guts.
They're bottom
heads.
feeders.
They're bottom feeders.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're bottom
But
feeders.
there are people that have developed methods with conventional tackle and flies to go after those fish. I could not.
Are they sight fishing them?
I would assume they have to be. Like they have these things called flesh flies that look like a big hunk of flesh floating down the river.
Like a big piece of chicken floating down the river?
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
They'll use, I'm not sure really how the other guys do it with the baits, or not the baits, but the lures that they're doing it with. But I've seen the fly and the bait methods. And whenever they hook into them, it's a super low percentage of hooking them, but the fights are insane. Like they jump just like the big ones out in Canada do and whatnot.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen one. I just know the signs are
They have a lot of them up in Michigan. They actually run up the rivers there.
in Michigan.
Yep, in Michigan.
Yeah, I didn't see any
You'll
of that,
see,
but
you
yeah.
know, 12, 15 feet long sturgeon in the river.
That's insane.
And some of the guys up there will fish to them. But yeah, most of the time they're just because how they feed, it's all on bottom.
Yeah.
But we have them here in Georgia.
Yeah.
But
They're just they're not big enough yet because they take so long to grow.
Yeah, they're super slow growers.
Yeah.
Very old
Like-
fish. I mean, if you know,
It takes
they
like
get
20
100
years.
they get those really big ones that are in the lakes, like the Great Lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
They're super old fish.
Yeah, they could be like 100 years or more.
Really,
Yeah.
they live that long.
Super old fish. Yes.
Have you actually seen one in person in Georgia?
Not in Georgia.
Nope,
no.
not in Georgia.
So I'm just wondering, we were talking about where we're putting our money stocking and all that. I'm just wondering how that stocking was, how much it cost, how many they put in there, and what was their end game expectation.
Well, it's a native species.
Yeah.
I'm all for returning native species back to their habitat if it's possible.
Muskie.
Yes,
exactly.
muskie would be great.
Yeah,
exactly, yes.
Blake is right on it. But the thing is it's like with the sturgeon, for example. They're doing it because it's a native species. Yeah, there's recreation involved with it, but it's not as much as like muskie or smallmouth would be.
okay.
If there's more investment in stuff like that, you're going to see a lot quicker returns too, because those fish grow faster.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the Adventure Channel sent me the striper video in my Facebook inbox. So I'm going to check that out after the show. So I
Yes.
appreciate you doing that. I saw the post and I'm like,
Yeah.
I was right there
Yeah.
last September or October when we were filming.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shocked me that they go that far up.
I know that people also will put in, like they'll put rafts in at the different bridges that go over the hooch and float down
Yeah.
and fish you can catch striper and shoal bass,
yeah.
going
That's
down.
something we need to do.
So
I definitely want to do that. Shoal bass is on my bucket list. I've never
Oh,
caught
yeah.
one,
They're fun.
and they're fun. And,
Oh,
and most of the guys I know that go after them are the kayak guys that go down to like the Flint.
that's where you want to go.
Yeah, that's where I think the better quality ones. But I've heard you catch some decent ones up here above Lanier.
you can.
Oh,
But I think it's
absolutely.
easier
Yeah.
to target down there, around that area. So,
It's just more of them down there,
yeah, beautiful fish though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is one fish though in Georgia people will travel here to catch.
Yes.
That is like the
Yep,
one
that is
species
true. Yep.
that they will travel because we're the place for them.
Oh, yeah.
There is. You can catch them in Florida a little bit, but again, it's
Not like we can
like
here in
No,
Georgia.
Not
yeah,
like there,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So getting on in there, and I know old Blake's back there. He's surviving. the
He's hanging
show.
on.
He's hanging on. So real quick, you're getting ready to go to Alaska.
Yes, sir.
When you'll be back in October.
Yep. First week of
Now,
October.
if somebody watches this later on, and I'm going to put your contact information in
Okay.
the thing. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you to book a trip on the Toccoa, how would they do it?
On Toccoa, they can message.
Or anywhere,
Yeah.
not Alaska, but in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, or Alaska.
Well, you know what? Hey, give me that information too, and in the description,
okay.
I'll put it that way in case somebody's got, hell, they had a bonus, and I'm gonna go to
Yeah.
Alaska.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll do both. But in Georgia, how would they get in touch with you?
Just you can do Instagram or my phone, 678-580-8702. Just give me a text, give me
Yeah.
a call, let me know. I mean, there's a ton of different stuff we can do too. I mean, I have the raft, so we can go float to Toccoa, the hooch.
Yep.
I mean, I have access to a bunch of different private waters too.
Okay,
So, I mean, there's pretty much whatever you want to do, I can do it.
You can
So,
do it.
Yeah.
strippers in Atlanta.
Well, most things.
I just wondered. You said you could do that. So, and then if somebody wants to book with you, they can reach out to me.
Yeah,
and I'll get them
you
in
can
touch
reach
with
out to Micah or Danny because that's probably the
Yeah,
easiest way. 'cause
exactly, yeah.
I'm not a social media person.
Yeah.
Never really have been. You know,
He's hiding from the government too. That's why he's
Yeah.
not giving his number out right there. So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it like that. All right, guys. So hey, listen.
yum yum.
Listen, I told you it would
Made
come
it
up.
almost
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
show.
Put the camera on him. Look at the camera this time.
Yum, baby.
Yum yum baby. Put it on. Put it on Phil. Put it on Phil.
Yum yum baby.
Yum yum baby. All right, so there you go. We took care of that for you there, Carson. So Phil and Mike, I appreciate you come hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. You know, and guys, especially you watching and at a late date, let's see if we can't start doing some of the things that Phil talked about earlier, as far as like maybe just seeing where our money goes, that where we're spending our money, and how we can use our platforms to kind of influence maybe getting fish like muskie back in Georgia, and just how we, ways we might can help out the people in Atlanta that seem to know better than we do about how to spend our money. Maybe we can kind of straighten them out a little bit. But guys, we appreciate you.
Yep.
And
we've got some.
look, Blake had to get his last call.
Yeah, he did. He sure did.
He's back there.
Oh, man.
Listen, he's shooting me a bird, but he looks like what he looks like is about a 70-year-old guy with emphysema back there, just going to town.
Tuberculosis, old Doc Holliday with the tuberculosis.
Doc Holliday, yeah. Give me a Doc Holliday. Put the camera on you,
Daisy,
Blake, for a
if you
second. Put the camera on you.
Cried.
He's crying. Give me your best Doc Holliday. Where he's got the. You know any Doc Holliday quotes? Huh? He is literally crying back there.
Oh, that one got me good.
It sounds like he's coughing up a lung.
Why, Ike? Whatever do you mean?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted him to say. That's what I'm gonna say. So anyway, guys, hey, we're gonna end it so I can get Blake into bed. No, let me rephrase that. So Blake can go home. And get into bed. So Blake can go home and get into bed. Guys, Thursday night, join us when we're talking bass and big lakes again. Have another great live well. If we don't see you, you guys have a great night. Be safe on the water, and everybody, please pray for Blake. So guys, we'll catch you on the next one.